As I write this, I walk around my host's office. The gentleman that has kindly helped me air my thoughts at paranoid times. The sights, the words this man has to share with you, I can find no words for. At my age I wish I could find the time. Find the life force to listen to the coming stories. However, my time here is short, and what I have to say will stay with you, in your thoughts and in your minds for a very long time. Some of you believe what I have to say, others question it. I don't blame you, I would as well. Your life should be full of questions. Question the puppeteers as they pull your strings. Know this, my friends, as you take this new journey into the world of questions, an old guy on the other side cheers you on. Now let's see where I left off. Chapter 25, How Fate Works. Oh no. This one is real. This is always the first thought when waking up after a blackout. After hours of flitting between different varieties of nightmare, you start to dream that you are lying sick and insane in a stained bed in a hole of an apartment that smells like cigarettes and spoiled ham. Your slowly crystallizing consciousness begins to note that this particular nightmare is more persistent than the others, that it has a certain uncanny clarity to it. Oh no, you realize, this one is real. Then you smell the coffee. You wake to the utter ugliness of your reality. It is too much. Too awful. What is the last thing you remember? God, it wasn't even midnight before the madness set in. You look at your hands. A tiny vibration runs through the fingers. Your entire mind feels like the raw meaty patch that is left after a fingernail is torn off. How many hours were you blacked out? 3? 4? You sit up and look around for evidence of mischief, smashed plates, bags of takeout food. All clear. You feel your face for bruises. Nothing major. Wallet and phone? Present and accounted for. Your phone says it's 2 p.m. or whatever time it happens to be, not bad. You check the calls and texts. Nothing unusual. No 2-hour conversation with your boss starting at 5 a.m. You log into your bank website and take a look. $94.56 spent last night. A king's ransom by your standards, but at least you didn't go on a $400 blowout. You sit and wonder why you have this feeling of black guilt in your stomach. It's just the hangover, right? Just your poor brain snapping back from all the depressant you gave it last night, entering a hypervigilant state, a paranoid state, an intolerable state. God, you need a drink. You deserve a drink for not blowing the rent last night. Medically, you need a drink. Just a little drink, but nothing overboard that will get you all drunk at 3 in the afternoon and blacked out again tonight. You go out of your tiny bedroom to front part of your apartment, and your heart stops. A woman is lying asleep on your couch. Not a young woman. An old woman. A tiny old grandma with messy gray hair. Jesus, what have you done? Her eyes slowly open. At least she's alive. She asks if you're okay now. You nod. The question is sinister. Okay now? What had been going on before? You can't deal with this without a drink. You go to the freezer and get the vodka and take in 2 good belts. Your stomach makes a violent protest, but your brain almost weeps with relief. Who are you? You ask the woman directly. She smiles and lets out a shy, grandmotherly little chuckle. She says she didn't expect you to remember last night, that you had, repeatedly, warned her that you wouldn't. Her demeanor is so warm and kind, you begin to worry that you have done something you would have regretted. You ask her, with greater urgency, who she is, and you tip another shot into your mouth. She says that she wants to hear the end of your story. She says that last night you came into the cafe that she owns, carrying a bottle of wine. Before she could tell you to leave, you began telling a story, a wonderful story, but you got too drunk and didn't finish it. So she got you into a cab and made sure you got home and slept on the couch because she very much wants to hear the end of your story. You tell her that you don't recall telling any story. She expects this. She says that it's the story about the children in the forest. You must know it, it was too wonderful to have just been made up. You shrug. You don't know any stories about any children in the forest. Unless it's Hansel and Gretel. Was it Hansel and Gretel? It was not. Well, that's the only child/forest story you know. She tells you that it was a very beautiful story and it made her cry and she very much wants to know the end of it. Your mind churns through the possibilities. This woman is crazy, she is about to ask for money, she is going to rob you, she wants to get your information so she can have you arrested, the cops are already on their way and she's stalling. But the pleading look in her eyes is quite convincing. She does just want to hear the story. The vodka is starting to loosen the paranoia's grip. You take another sip. How many drinks was that? 2? Okay, don't want to get too drunk too early. No more drinking for the next hour. You take another sip. If you can't drink for the next hour, you'll need that last sip. You sit down on the couch next to her. The sweet relief of the vodka is melting away some of your anxiety, and you let out a big sigh. You ask her to tell you some of the story, maybe it will jog your memory. She insists that she can't tell it as good as you told it, but you brush her protests aside. She begins to tell you the story. In her warm grandmotherly voice, she begins to tell you about the magical children who lived in the forest, who danced and sang and never died, who fought bravely against the nightmare forces of the ancient queen. It really is a beautiful story, and the woman tells it so well, with lots of nice little touches that make you giggle softly. You see in your mind for a moment the sunlight through the fluttering leaves and smell the apple-scented air, so much sweeter and freer than anything your tiny grim shithole apartment full of empty bottles. And once again your eyes grow damp. You have heard, from various people at various times, the beginning of this story, but you have never heard the end. Perhaps it has none. This has happened time after time. This grandmother was the mother of the son that would grow up to start paranoid times. See, we have something of a history, but more about that later. Chapter 26. Consider this case. You have come to find much of our old technology new, in the past we called virtual reality. Feeds. Very soon. A woman. 28 years old. That lives in a bedrock apartment block in Alabama. She has engaged in heavy feed use since childhood, spending 70 to 80% of her free time connected. At age 16 she finds global success as mix guide, netting her a considerable sum of money. One day, when she is 19 years old, she connects to her feed. She does not disconnect again for 9 years. 9 years of continuous feed. 9 years without any direct human contact. 9 years alone in a hygiene bed. Dreaming. Meanwhile, her feed is a veritable flurry of digital contact, mixes, life stories, role swaps, rooms, hunts, avatar makers, empathy games, sex play, and on and on. For a while, her mix tours sell well, and she enjoys her celebrity. But over the years, tastes changes and her income falls. Try as she might, she cannot revive her popularity. She tries sorting, tutoring, crowd matching, whatever will make her money. But the competition in these markets is harsh, and she has significant debts to several promotion companies. Her money runs out. She manages to credit bounce for a while, but the writing is on the wall, she must disconnect. She knows this, yet she cannot bring herself to do it. Within the feeds she is well liked by her spheres, known as a talented mixer and narrator, a reasonable wall mediator and a sensitive and capable participant in sex play. But she has a direct sense feed with complete safety overrides, and she has been on increasing pain dampening for the last 4 years. She knows she has bed sores and perhaps will need multiple amputations. She has assumed that she will live feed to grave, and cannot bring herself disconnect. She researches cortical suicide methods but decides against it. She contacts emergency services and arranges for them to remove her from her hygiene bed. One day shortly after her 28th birthday she is disconnected after a 9-year dream. She awakes to a world of horrifying pain. Pain dampening has blocked her opioid receptors, and the removal technicians can do nothing for her agony. Her entire body is atrophied and she has severe calcification around her ports, catheter and evacuator, as well as numerous sores and abscesses and general muscle atrophy. She is taken to the hospital for physical rehabilitation. After several operations, she is stabilized and her pain has subsided to manageable levels. Thankfully, her limbs are still intact. After eye treatments, she looks at herself in the mirror and finds something she does not recognize. She has aged 9 years, though a lack of sun exposure and facial expressions has left her face smooth and unlined, albeit inhumanly gaunt and pale. Within a few days, the hospital sends her home. She must use a scooter to return to her apartment, which is little more than weatherproof box to contain her hygiene bed. What will become of this woman? Sitting alone in her apartment with no job and no touch friends, without even a bathroom other than the hygiene bed, she will find it very difficult to resist the lure of the feed. The lack of stimulation will mean that she is often bored. The lack of predictability will mean that she is anxious whenever she is not bored. She will find unmediated socializing torturous. According to our statistics, there will be a 90% chance of her making another long-term connection within a month. There will be a 30% chance of her dying within 1 year. This the price of long-term connection, it is inescapable. Less than 1% of users connected continuously for more than 3 years are able to go on to lead successful disconnected lives. In America, there are currently over 30 million users on long-term connections. Unless something changes, they will stay connected until they die. Much like the internet is now and like virtual reality will be. This is why they have created Companion 12. How I Come to Be an American. Almost 78 years ago WW2 began. I was 2 and I was the son of a German scientist that was brought to the United States in 1945 under Project, or better known as Operation Overcast, which was later renamed Operation Paperclip. My father was classified for Project Brain Drain. We should stop, until I can find his notes and experiments. Much of this you need to know, dear listener. I warn you beforehand, the terrors of Germany, many of which has never been made public. But will soon, in hopes, history will not repeat itself. Stay paranoid, my friends. Out. After hours of flitting between different varieties of nightmare, you start to dream that you are lying sick and insane in a stained bed in a hole of an apartment that smells like cigarettes and spoiled ham. Your slowly crystallizing consciousness begins to note that this particular nightmare is more persistent than the others, that it has a certain uncanny clarity to it. Your strings. Know this, my friends, as you take this new journey into the world of questions. An old guy on the other side cheers you on. Now let's see where I left off. Chapter 25, How Fate Works. Oh no. This one is real. This is always the first thought when waking up after a black humming stories. However, my time here is short, and what I have to say will stay with you, in your thoughts and in your minds for a very long time. Some of you believe what I have to say, others question it. I don't blame you, I would as well. Your life should be full of questions. Question the puppeteers as they pull you. As I write this, I walk around my host's office. The gentleman that has kindly helped me air my thoughts at paranoid times. The sights, the words this man has to share with you, I can find no words for. At my age I wish I could find the time. Find the life force to listen to the